In this video, I'm going to be modeling for you the strategies and the steps that we use when we're adding mixed numbers. So we've already been adding fractions that are such as 7/8 plus 2/8, where they kind of look in that same representation of what we think about when we see fractions. Well, this is very similar. It just is maybe one more or maybe two more steps depending on what your total ends up being. So I'm going to walk you through two different examples of what your fourth grader might see. So here I have 3 8/12, and I'm going to add to it 1 1/12. So I like to have my fourth graders line it up, kind of like place value, how we line up the ones and the ones, the tens and the tens, the hundreds and the hundreds. Well, here I like to have them line up the ones that kind of look a lot like typical fractions and then the whole number part of it. So that's what we have here. So I'm going to think, okay, I'm going to start here with this smaller part. These are less than one whole, kind of like how we start in the ones place. And so I'm going to think I have some 12ths and I'm going to add more 12ths. So I should end up with 12ths. Well, 8/12 plus 1/12 is 9/12, okay? And then I'm just going to move over here to the whole number part of that mixed number. And I'm just going to add 3 plus 1 is 4. So really simple. I'm just adding here 9/12 and 4. So 3 8/12 plus 1 1/12 is 4 9/12. Now that was a simple example here because there was no going over a whole. Now in this one here, it's going to take one extra step to kind of get our complete answer here. So again, here I have it lined up so that I'll be able to join these together and these together kind of in two steps. So again, here I'm going to start on this section that kind of look like the typical fraction representation, and I'm going to do 7/12 and 9/12. Well, so I'm going to end up with some 12ths here. Well, 7/12 and 9/12 is 16/12. Well, that's more than a whole, okay? So I have an option here. I can either change this into an improper fraction or into a mixed number right away, or I can add my whole numbers. It doesn't really matter which one you do. Whatever is going to help your fourth grader remember to do both steps. So what I like to do is I like to just say, okay, well, 3 plus 2 is 5. That's my whole number part. But now I'm going to change this part to a mixed number because improper fractions really aren't the standard way of representing a fraction. So 16/12. If I just write that over here, well, I'm doing 12ths. Well, a whole would be 12/12. So I like to just write that there so I don't forget. So that's 12/12. So I know I'm going to add one more because that's a whole there. So I got my whole. And then how many extra 12ths do I have? So that's 13/12, 14/12, 15/12, 16/12. I have 4 extra 12ths. So I'm going to cross this out because I've now switched it to 1 4/12. Sorry about that. So now I can add it. I just changed this to an improper fraction. So these are the same value. I just changed it to a more standard representation. So that's why I crossed it out. I changed it to 1 4/12, and now I'm going to add it back in. So 4/12, and then my whole numbers is 5 plus 6. 5 plus 1 is 6. So 2 7/12 plus 3 9/12 ends up being 6 4/12. But I had that middle step where I needed to change the improper fraction to a mixed number. And then I added it back in. Okay? So that might be a step that your fourth grader need a little bit of reminding to do, is changing any improper fractions to mixed numbers, because this is what it looks like with fractions to have to regroup. Just like with, whole numbers, if we have more ones, we add them and we regroup into a 10, or more than 10 tens regroups into 100. Well, this is more than one whole regroups into a new whole. Okay, so keep that in mind. Remind your fourth graders to always change those improper fractions to mixed numbers, and look out for when you need to regroup, or sometimes you don't.